Waking up in a land I don't know.
Head spins round and round.
People stare.
And turn away.
Where do I belong?
Where do we belong?
If it wasn't for the Tsar and the Cossacks, I wouldn't be here. My family came from Eastern Europe. My grandparents came to Glasgow when they were teenagers. What does that make me? Third generation immigrant?
My family came from Imperial Russia, what is now eastern Ukraine near the Sea of Azov.
My family came from Latvia, Lithuania, and a jail in Belarus.
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think I am?
Comings and goings, immigration, emigration, people have always been on the move. Every family has a story to tell. There's so many stories to tell. Tonight we'll share a few stories, a few seeds of hope. You'll hear about a Ukrainian refugee who came to Glasgow in 1890 and a Ukrainian refugee who came to Edinburgh in 2022. And our musicians also have their own stories to tell.
My family came from Russia, in what's now Poland, and like most Ashkenazi Jewish families, we have a family legend that my great-grandmother was smuggled over the border, hidden in a cart under sacks and hay.
Carry on.
Well, I suppose they came from Africa, by the north of Spain, Scandinavia, Scotland, and then when they were fleeing Europe, they got on the wrong boat, and so they go to America, they went to Sunderland.
Sorry, I have to say, it's like you said it to me earlier today. You got on the wrong train today.
I got the wrong train today, yes. I'm carrying on a family tradition.
And of course, to other musicians who are in the audience at the moment, but we'll see them later on. You have a story?
And I am from northern Iran, Rasht.
Hello, I'm Farzane, and me and my sister were coming from Iran, and we came with airplane.
Immigrants, refugees. Scotland has been a destination for many people leaving their home country and hoping to find peace, safety, and make a fresh start.
And why not? The weather's always beautiful.
Scots have also been good at emigrating, but not always through choice.
Clearances.
We are not immune to travelling, leaving the world we know, pushed and shoved for sheep. The clearances made us go to Canada and beyond, to Glasgow, that foreign land. From the highlands and the lowlands, we came, we went, fleeing from our homes.
The Industrial Revolution had a long tail. 19th century Scotland and Glasgow in particular flourished with new industries and factories. The clearances had brought people from the highlands and lowlands into the towns and cities, as well as forcing many to emigrate. Russia, Lithuania, and Ukraine, pogroms were taking place, and Jewish communities were facing discrimination and violent attacks.
So if there was a chance of a better life somewhere else, why not try and get out?
Some hoped for a better life in America, but it was a long way, and a passage on a ship was very costly. So many made it for the UK, at least for the first part of their journey.
Tobacco.
No thanks, I've given up.
No. I was going to say that the new Mitchell's cigarette factory in Glasgow in the early part of the 20th century was providing employment for a lot of immigrants from Eastern Europe.
Ah, yes, 1890. Following in the footsteps of his younger brother Chaim, 17-year-old Avram Radutski, from what is now Kiev and Ukraine, emigrated to Glasgow. He had got a job in Mitchell's cigarette factory.
Avram worked long hours like everyone else, but his ambition was to be a writer.
The harsh conditions of the factory in the city's immigrant district, the Gorbals, gave Avram inspiration and purpose for his skills as a writer.
Avram's first published poem, Die Geldsäck, The Fat Cats, took a satirical swipe at the ruling class.
As long as the workers turn the wheels and farmers sow the fields, unskilled labour works for pennies while we keep on grabbing coal, keep the brickies on our payroll, we're the boss.
As long as we can win elections, let the formers bicker corrections in trendy jackets and no hat, while others look to those on high, sending prayers up to the sky. We're in charge.
Long as the Poles dance to our drum, and we drop an occasional crumb for the waiting press to snap. From our purses to God's ears, we're all right.
Just as long as no one feels that in their will, in their ideals, lies the power to be free, and silently turns the key to lock the chains of hunger of disease. We're in the money.
Perhaps that wasn't Radutski's most subtle poem. On the one hand, he was, by all accounts, a modest and gentle man. On the other, he was an activist, leading several strikes and helping to establish the first cigarette workers' union.
An empathetic observer, his poetry was a direct yet lyrical address to all forms of inequality.
Drei Nigunen, 3 tunes. Mein erster Nigen sich wend von neut, eurem Leben bitter bereut, von Arbeitsmann, wo's webt und schafft, und is verkäufen, und is versklavt.
My first tune was from Need, Poor Life's Bitter Bread, of the worker who weaves and makes, and is sold and enslaved.
Der zweite Nigens, gewend von Flamm, Sturm, Dunner, Räusch und Jam, geweckt zum Kampf dem stillen Geist und mit Funken ihm gespeist.
The second tune was from Fire, Storm, Thunder, Noise and Waves. The quiet spirit awakened to the fight and fed with the spark.
Der dritte Nigens, gewend und is, von Reusenweg zum Paradies, was ruft die Menschen Orem reich, kommt und leben do alle gleich.
The third tune was and is from the rosy path to paradise that calls to people poor and rich to come and live as equals.
Radutski began sending his poems and articles for publication using various pen names, including Ish Baglasgoy, man from Glasgow, and Glasgower Yedini, a Glaswegian Jew. In his occasional column for St. Petersburg, The Friend, he wrote about early 20th century Scottish Yiddish immigrant life. He gives a vivid description of a Jewish trebler, travelling salesman, eking out a living around the small mining towns of central Scotland.
Today's peddler barely makes enough for bread and herring. It tugs often at your heart to see how a Jew, bent double under a mass of pictures, tied over his shoulders with string, on his chest and on his back, trudges slowly around the towns and villages, the rain lashing his face, the wind pushing him back, the poor man struggling against the elements, the weight that cuts into his shoulders and pulls him to the ground, and not even earning a penny or two. His wife and children wait for bread, or else for a letter and money from the golden Medina, which is what we called America.
Was there no justice for the poor and unprivileged? In his poetry, Radutski was unafraid to challenge higher powers for answers.
And if I have sinned, then tell me the sin. Treat me harshly like a father his son. Pull out the roots that created the sin. God of gods, show me the strength. And don't come to my aid in solitude and need. I will suffer and curse myself until death shows its face. Then have no reasons, Creator, with me. If my soul breathes, no prayer for you.
In 1906, Avron sought a better life for himself and his family and immigrated to the Golden Medina, America. There were more Yiddish newspapers and greater opportunities for his work as a poet, a sketchwriter, and a journalist. However, after losing his eldest daughter Rebecca to the 1927 flu epidemic, Radutski became increasingly unwell. His asthma, a legacy of his time in the cigarette factory, was getting worse. Glasgow's first Yiddish poet died in New York on March 21st, 1928.
The Folk Singer by Avram Radutski. I am a child of simple folk. I sing a simple song of chaos and the tyrant's yoke. Don't blame me if it's wrong. I sing of lives that have no rhyme, robbed of light and reason. For how can folk trapped in winter time even picture a brighter season? Our days live cheek by jowl with threat, snatched away from freedom. Our piece of bread is mixed with sweat. We're robbed and rinsed, left bleeding. Every fool makes fun of us, but the smarter ones, they praise us. They lock the door and become our boss, get us drunk and earn our trust. Our backs are there for all to ride, for anyone to beat. They build their thrones on our poor hide and make their own life sweet. But a stronger power that's buried deep will make the cell door rattle. For when the people wake from sleep, then lions and tigers battle. So shield yourself from the storm and shower, from thunder's darkening rumble. For the gilded throne and guarded tower must one day surely tumble.
Not all Jews set their sights on America. Like many immigrant communities, they embrace Scottish life, bringing their own culture and traditions. Glasgow, by far the biggest community, boasted several Yiddish newspapers, numerous synagogues, butchers, bakeries,
And the Jewish Institute, which was a centre for theatre, music and dancing. Poets, playwrights, journalists and politicians, there were plenty.
The 1930s saw darkness descending across Europe.
In 1939, the Kindertransport tried desperately to get as many Jewish children as possible out of Germany. Some managed to make it to Scotland. One of them would grow up to be a renowned and much-loved baker and caterer in Glasgow. His name was Henry Wuga.
I came from Germany. I was born in Nuremberg, the notorious Nazi town of Nuremberg. We were driven out. We had to leave. There was no future for us in Germany. We had to leave, and fortunately, my mother got me a place on Kindertransport. And that saved my life. Being taken to the station by your parents, not knowing whether you will ever see them again, is quite something. It really was quite traumatic. People came to collect children and said, yes, oh yes, I like this one, I don't like that one. So siblings became separated, many for months on end, but it had saved our lives. We had arrived in a different country. I had a guarantor in Glasgow, a very nice Jewish lady by the name of Eddy Maher. And I was taken in by that kind lady. I felt at home there immediately. She was a very kind lady. And the first thing, I had my own room, but the first thing, you must go to school. She insisted, quite rightly so. I'm very pleased about that. I was the only foreign boy in that school, the Queen's Park School. I was well treated. So I stayed in Glasgow, and I took jobs in various hotels and restaurants. And that went very well. I found friends, I found a refugee committee, German, Jewish, and Austrian, Czech refugees. We had our own club. This is where I met my dear wife, Ingrid. And this is how life went on. But we settled in Glasgow and found it very comfortable. After living here all this time, I certainly feel Scottish. I come from a different background. How am I? I feel at home here. I feel this is my country now. But how can I explain that? Okay, we come from a different background, different music, different literature. But you had to join life as it was in Scotland, and you learn Scottish ways. You learn different ways to look at things, and between being ex-German from a different culture coming here, so the two mixed up, and you take the best of each of them. Of course, I tell my story. We talk quite a lot at schools, and we talk at the Jewish Museum in Berlin, because this should not. There are people who deny these things ever happened. What is going on at the moment worldwide is quite frightening. People are building walls, people are closing their borders. Being a refugee myself, you obviously, you feel differently for these people. You are looking for asylum, you're looking to save your life somewhere. You must hold out your hand, you must help people. That's all you need. Somebody put a hand out to help you, and you will try and take what you're given and integrate and do the best you can.
Henry Wuga was awarded the MBE, and his late wife Ingrid was awarded the BEM. I'm very delighted to say that one of Henry's daughters is with us tonight. And so, Gillian, would you like to come on stage? Thank you very much for joining us. I just realised there that I went to the same school as your father, obviously a few years after him. But he's so much part of my childhood as well, because when I went to bar mitzvahs or weddings, he was often doing the catering in some really big white chef houses. So tell me, when you were growing up, did your parents talk about what they'd been through and the war and the Holocaust?
They did, and it's something that we're asked, you know, when did you find out? And I can't answer it because we never found out. It was just part of our childhood, part of our life. And when we went on holidays to Europe, we would go and visit the people who hid my grandmother during the war in Germany. So we just knew that it was just normal for us.
And apart from, you know, generally talking about the war and Holocaust and that whole experience, what were the special things that your parents got involved in?
Mum and Dad felt it really important to give back. So as Dad said, you know, people should never forget. Unfortunately, the world hasn't really learned. So they did speak in schools, and that's something that my sister and I are doing now. But they also volunteered. They worked for an organisation, or volunteered for an organisation called Lesma, it helps rehabilitate soldiers who've lost limbs. And my dad was a keen skier, so for years and years in their retirement till he was 90, he was their instructor in chief in the Alps, helping these boys, as he called them, to learn to ski and get some self-worth back, sense of achievement. And they volunteered for the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice, so they were always busy giving back. That's what they wanted to do.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And you and your sister are going to carry on.
We do, yes. I've got a school on Thursday, so, and it's very rewarding sharing it.
Right. Well, thanks very much for joining us. 1945 saw the end of the Second World War, but not the end of strife in Europe and elsewhere.
Villages, towns and cities had been destroyed. Thousands of survivors were displaced. If there was a home to return to, getting there wasn't easy. And many found that their home had been destroyed or taken over, and they were no longer welcome.
1947, the birth of the Edinburgh International Festival, founded by refugee Rudolf Bing, and bringing together artists and musicians from countries broken by the war. And there, sneaking in alongside the official festival, the unofficial festival, the Fringe.
The 1960s, the swinging 60s. How many of you remember that? I'm at secondary school in Glasgow. My school has quite a lot of Jewish kids and Asian kids, and we have quite a lot in common. Our roots are in the Gorbals, and before that elsewhere. We're of immigrant stock, but to some we're still outsiders.
As we all know, school days can be difficult for everyone for one reason or another. And the older you are when you join a new school, perhaps the harder it can be.
One day, a new girl from Hungary joined our school. This is part of her story.
My name is Agnes Isaacs. I was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1953, 8 years after the Holocaust. At the start of the Second World War, there were 825,000 Jews in Hungary. Over 600,000 of them were murdered during the Holocaust. The Russians liberated Hungary on the 17th of February 1945. My parents owed their life to them. My mother Eva, aged 14, and her mom survived in the Budapest ghetto. My father Zoltán, his sister and his mom were deported from Mattersburg, Austria to Hungary in the 1938 Anschluss. In 1944, my father was put to work as a slave laborer and taken to various camps. He was lucky to survive, weighing 45 kilos and having had typhoid. My father was blessed with a beautiful voice, became a cantor, met and married my mother Eva in 1949. Like many other people, they tried to put the events of the Holocaust behind them. My earliest memories are from the Hungarian uprising in 1956. Age 3, I remember having to stay away from the windows as heavy fighting was going on outside. Hungary was one of the more liberal communist countries. Synagogues stayed open and kosher food was available. My father changed our name, Schnurmaher, to Sirmai, a Hungarian name, as he had become an opera singer as well as a cantor by now. He said he took a stage name, but I heard it was really to avoid anti Semitism. In 1964, a school friend of my father visited us. He now lived in London. He asked, "Why are you still living here?" Jokingly, my father said, "If I had a job, I would make the move." Soon after, a small newspaper cutting from the Jewish Chronicle arrived from London. Queenspark Synagogue were looking for a cantor. My parents decided to apply for the position. My father had always wanted to live a freer Jewish life. A letter of invitation for a trial arrived soon after. The synagogue in Glasgow was filled to capacity, and my father was offered a job right there and then and asked to stay. Luckily, they decided to come home for me. My parents were worried if they asked to emigrate, they may well be refused and lose their chance to leave. So they said they're going on holiday to Vienna and requested the relevant documentation. The day finally arrived and we walked out of our home with 2 suitcases. I was 11 and I never looked back. My father was known now as Reverend Solly Selnay and started work straight away communicating in German and Yiddish. We were welcomed by everyone in the congregation and they all did their best to help us settle in. We learned how to do things the Scottish way. Drink tea with milk, make beds with blankets, not duvets. We tried porridge and whiskey, well, not me, and other local customs. There were lots of challenges. I had to go to school. I applied to go to a good school and had to sit a test. I got in, and the head of English very kindly took me under his wing. I passed my hires and went to London to study art and fashion design.
And of course, the school was Queen's Park. Brilliant school. Agnes now works for the Association of Jewish Refugees. It's an organisation focused on helping and supporting Holocaust survivors and other refugees, and also facilitating other educational projects.
We've heard about Avram Radutski, who came to Glasgow in 1890. After the interval, we'll hear about another young Ukrainian refugee who came to Scotland just 2 years ago following the events in his homeland. We'll also hear from Aref and Farzane about their journey to Glasgow.
So there'll now be a short 15-minute interval to recover. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad that you have come back. That means you might be enjoying it, which is great. So we're going to start off the second half with a poem from Ellen Galford.
Before I actually read it, I think it's important to know that for all of us, whether we are refugees or here as voluntary immigrants, the way I am, people lucky enough to make the choice to come to Scotland, none of us come alone. We bring so much with us in terms of family memories and the colors and the textures of the worlds we grew up in. And for many of us, our ancestral languages really remain lifelines and treasures. Even if we don't actually know them properly, we might just know little fragments and expressions and sayings that we remember from our grandmothers or our great-grandmothers. But it's a sense of who we are, and it's one of the things we bring. And sometimes it enriches the language of the people we meet here. And for me, that particular treasure is the Yiddish language. And I grew up knowing only fragments and expressions, but decided I wanted to study it properly, and we're lucky enough in Edinburgh to have people a Yiddish class. So this is a poem that I wrote a long time ago, so people here may have heard it a million times, about the struggling to learn Yiddish. It's called Mama Mama Lawson, and Mama Lawson is the Yiddish word for mother tongue. Mama Mama Lawson wears beads of Baltic amber, a touch of French perfume, and a gun once owned by an Odessa gangster, under a skirt recycled from a sage's prayer shawl. Mama Mama Lawson never leaves her kitchen, yet is never off the city streets, drifting between the study houses and the cabarets, telling jokes that were old when Babylon was young. Mama Mama Lawson has forgotten where she was born and carries 20 different passports sewn into the hem of her raincoat. Mama Mama Lawson sails the seas in a leaky lifeboat, driving off leviathans by reciting her recipes for gefilte fish and pickled herring. Mama Mama Lawson makes time for her lovers, pinching the pale cheeks of Torah scholars, infiltrating their daughters' daydreams, flirting with old socialists on May Day. Mama Mama Lawson knows more songs than the birds, more prayers than the angels, more curses than Cain, and never hesitates to tell hard truths to heaven. Mama Mama Lawson gives me the keys to her house, where 10,000 doors demand to be opened. But she changes the locks between visits if I don't come the moment she calls me. Mama Mama Lawson never stands still, wandering the world with her army of poets, leaving me to run stumbling in her wake, desperate not to lose sight of her altogether.
When you have to leave your home and your country, where do you go? Where can you go?
If there's time to plan, you may have contacts somewhere, anywhere, that could help. You may have family, distant family, friends of friends, perhaps not. In 1890, Avram Radutski followed the route his younger brother had taken from Ukraine to Glasgow.
In 1939, the Kindertransport brought hundreds of frightened and bewildered Jewish children out of Germany to UK for safety. Most were taken in by strangers, families who volunteered to give them a home, at least for a while. February 2022, Ukraine is top of the news agenda.
My name is Dmytro. I'm 23 years old. My life before the war was just a simple, basic life of a student. A month before the war started, we already had some news. We had some information about the potential invasion from Russia, but we actually didn't care about this because we had the same information somewhere in the middle of the 2018, and then nothing happened. We were planning our holiday at the end of the February, holiday around Europe. And on 23rd in evening, we left our house. This is the last time I saw my home, where I grew up and spent my whole life. And we moved to the borders. Romania and Ukraine. And in the morning on 24th of February in 5 a.m., we started to get messages from the news channels about the bombings, and basically we didn't know how to do that. I don't even know how to describe this feeling. This is something that I never felt before, and I think a normal human being should feel, to be honest. It's not even being scared, it's just you don't know what to do next. You don't have anything in your head, any thoughts. We decided to move on and see what is going to happen, because we're hoping it's all going to end, it'll pass, because how come in 21st century someone can attack civilians just the middle of the night? We were driving 3 or 4 days non-stop, basically stopping only for places to sleep. We slept in Romania. We then went through Bulgaria and Greece. And actually on third day, driving through the whole Greece, we arrived in Albania. For the first feeling was that it's just somewhere that we can breathe normally. At least 3 days of just laying and sitting in the flat. All the family were sitting in one room, staring at their phones, computers, chatting, and after being in Albania almost whole March, we decided to move to Italy because we had a friend who agreed to help us and host us for some time.
Meanwhile, in the UK and elsewhere, the call was going out for volunteers to host Ukrainian families. This, in part, is Stephanie's story.
What happened actually is I signed up in various websites. There was a UK government one, there were different charities. It was all sort of kicking off in 16 different directions. And my thinking was simply, I looked around where I was living, which was huge. When I moved to Edinburgh, I had the choice of sort of small places where I can imagine most of my possessions would be stacked in one room and I'd be living in the other, or really expansive, which was more than I needed. And so there I was in this 3-bedroom plus dining room plus home office plus attic guest space, me and a cat. Do you remember the film Dr. Zhivago? There's a bit where Yuri comes home from the war to discover that his in-laws' palatial mansion has been taken over by the local commune, and someone else answers the door, and it's the commune leader, a very severe-faced woman in a sort of uniform, and she says, "Comrade, there was room for 20 families here." I had that moment in my head. I looked at my flat and I thought, there's certainly room for more people here. And that was the extent of the thinking I did.
So meanwhile, Dmytro and his family had arrived in Rome.
How nice to be in Rome.
Possibly. But of course they were worried about friends and family back home. And of course the home that they left.
To begin with, they stayed with a friend. And then he suggests they move into a hotel, providing food and accommodation for Ukrainian refugees. So Dmytro and his father go to check into the hotel.
Me and my father went there, took cars from the rooms, went back just to get some clothes and stuff, and we left the car in the parking in a shady place. And 1 hour after, when we came back, we discovered that our windows are broken and someone stole our documents and our tag and electronic devices. Not all of them, gladly, and same as my passport and other passports were with us. But knowing what's going on, we took with us a lot of quite important documents just because we didn't know what's going to happen. It was quite hard to just go through this process. First of all, we didn't expect that someone is gonna rob car with Ukrainian numbers regarding the news and regarding that the war just started. And yeah, basically we're in this kind of stress after stress situation. It seemed like life couldn't give us a brief moment just to breathe. And I'm okay with that because I always was reminding myself that people in Ukraine struggling more than I do, and all of that is more of a, not a big problem as sitting in your flat and hearing air alarms, hearing bombings and stuff like this. So every time I complain about it, or I was complaining about it in my head, I I was always coming back to the thought is that it's not that bad. You need to accept that you're here and you're safe.
In Edinburgh, Stephanie was waiting to hear if she would be matched with any displaced families. Who would accept her hospitality? Was she beginning to have second thoughts?
I then spent a couple of months thinking, oh God, what if it's a woman with small children who trashed the place?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, given the statistics, I expected a middle-aged lady, possibly with a child or two. And I did the best I could to sort of make guest rooms habitable, and some lovely friends helped me move furniture around and whatnot. A couple of the organizations rang me back with potential matches, but one of them was someone who very much wanted to stay near other relatives who were going to be in Portobello. So geographically, it wasn't perfect. And the next one was an elderly couple who couldn't cope with the 4 flights of West End tenement stairs, which I can sympathize with, having fractured my ankle a couple of times since then. So I thought, well, probably nothing will ever come of it, but I've shown willing. And then there's a wonderful woman, I don't know if you've come across her, Katerina Lee, based in Scotland, was working with one or other of the charities. I don't even remember which at this point. She was doing matching and she was very good at it. I think she's originally from Ukraine, and she really understood the areas and who needed what. And Dima actually was the only one in his family who wanted to come to Scotland.
Going to UK was my kind of childhood dream. Quite conveniently, my sister's godmother, she said that there's a program in Scotland when basically Ukrainians can apply for the courses as Scottish citizens and get into masters for free because of the war. And I immediately texted her asking about any details, and she got me in contact with one of the volunteers named Katerina, and she was arranging meetings and stuff. So I texted her, we had a chat, we kind of went through my needs, what I'm looking for, and we ended up with 2 cities in option. It's Glasgow or Edinburgh, and she sent me a whole list of universities that I can contact with all the information. And I started doing this. In the meanwhile, I was just doing research about the cities as well. And I was quite shocked seeing Edinburgh, to be honest, because it's not compatible to any other cities in Europe for me personally. And I kind of, after 2 or 3 pages reading about Edinburgh and Edinburgh universities in general, I kind of fell in love with the city, and eventually I texted her saying, I'm going to go for Edinburgh. If is there any options?
Katerina contacted me and said, would you consider hosting a young man? And my first answer was, is this culturally appropriate? I am a lady of a certain age alone. I do not want people insinuating or thinking things, or him thinking that this is something other than what it is. I'm willing to be auntie or grandma, but, is this appropriate? To which her answer was, he's nice, his family are nice. I think it's perfectly understandable. At least meet him over WhatsApp and have a chat.
We had a group call, me, Stephanie, and Katerina, and we were talking about anything, because basically I needed to show that I'm okay, and I understand that for Stephanie it was a bit random as well. I understood that, and I was trying to show that I'm not a maniac or something, and I'm a really good person. I was really nervous about this.
So all went well on that first meeting, and before long, Dmytro was able to come to Edinburgh. There's much more to this story, of course, but for now, let's just meet the stars of the story, Dmytro and Stephanie. If you'd like to come on stage. First of all, thanks for being here. There's a lot more to the story, isn't there? But for now, can you just tell us what's happening to you now?
So, first of all, I just want to say, listening to this story is just, I understand how lucky I am. And a lot of people in Ukraine and Ukrainians don't have this luck that I do, unfortunately. So, my story is not the hardest one, but is an example that there's a lot of people like me here who's trying to blend into community and survive in a different kind of area culture around people with different culture as well. So, yeah.
And can I just say, you know, when you had to leave Ukraine, you were just completing your course at university there, and you got your degree, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the thing was, you wanted to continue your education, and when you came to Edinburgh, Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about what happened next?
Yeah, it was a very intensive first 100 days. I took a week off work, and I swear we just went to government offices to sign things to get him to be a real person in the bureaucracy. You never think about that when it's your own country and your own language, but doing it in your second or third or fourth language and not knowing what the situation in the world is and wanting to be legal, and it's quite scary and quite exhausting. Then after that, he actually sat his exams long distance and wrote his exam answers from his bedroom in my flat. Then we tackled how do you get into university in the UK, which I knew nothing about. And we managed that. That involved a portfolio. He's now in the excellent photography course at Napier, and to get into that you had to submit a portfolio of photographs. And when I saw the quality of the work he'd been doing, I knew he had a chance, but I also knew that we had a very short time to get it sorted. So that summer of 2022 was a blur. It was all about passing exams and filling out forms and getting things sorted. And the day he got his English test score and got into Napier, we danced in the hallway. We jumped up and down. It was crazy.
Thank you very much. And some of the photographs that you've seen accompanying the interviews, well, all of them were taken by Dmytro. So thank you very much for that. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of your photographs in the future as you pursue your passion, which is photography. Yeah. So, well done. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Can I just add one more word? I've got at least as much out of this as Dima and his mother and sister have. I feel like I have a second family. I told him when I first met that I would be auntie in Edinburgh. And I've got an instant nephew, and his mum is like my sister that I never had. His sister is another good friend. I told his mum, she did the hard work and I got the benefit. So this has been a marvelous gift to me too.
Thank you. And we should also give a big round of applause to Katrina, who is in the audience. So thank you. Thanks very much. Be careful with the nervous steps. So a new country, a place of safety, can give people the opportunity to make a new start. But they can also bring a flavour of their own culture to be enjoyed and shared. So this is a very good moment to introduce our other musicians, Aref and Farzane. Sorry.
Farzane.
Sorry, I've got it all wrong. We'll retake that later. But now let's just enjoy some lovely music.
من بیمه نازیستن نتوانم بی باده کشیده بار تن نتوانم من بنده آدمم من بنده آدمم که ساقی گویم من بنده آدمم که ساقی گویم یک جام دیگر بگیر و منت سویت جان کمتر زد شانه چون در چین و شکنش دارد دل من کاشانه چون در چین و شکنش دارد دل من کاشانه بگشا ز مویت گرهی چند ای من تا بگشایی گرهی شاید ز دل تا بگشایی گرهی شاید ز دل دیوانه دلت دارد خانه مجروح گردد چو زنی هر دم شانه مجروح وحشت جان کمتر زن شانه چون در چین و شکنش دارد دل من کاشانه چون در چین و شکنش دارد دل من کاشانه بگشاز مویم گرهی چند ای من تا بگشایی گرهی شاید ز دل دیوانه تا بگشایی گرهی شاید ز دل دیوانه لعنت دارد خانه مجروح گردم چو زنی هر دم شانه مجروح گردم چو زنی هر دم شانه
hear some more music from Farzane and Aref in a minute, but I'm also interested, this is quite a talky evening, and I would be interested to hear something from both of you two about the music we're hearing, and also about how it kind of reflects where you got the music from and how it feels now. Maybe Aref, just song.
Sure. Hello, everyone, first of all. It's a huge pleasure to be here with you all tonight. And the first song called Segodar, and it's one of the famous Iranian folk song. It's that old that we don't know who the main composer and the writer of the song is. And as usual, most of the Iranian folk songs are quite romance songs and conversation between two lovers. Yeah.
And you learned that song a long time ago?
So throughout my musical journey, where I have been learning Persian classical or traditional singing, which according to different modes, and it's a modal music, we have been learning this folkloric music and songs, and yeah, that's been conveyed through generations, as we have a saying. It's been conveyed chest to chest or head to head, as you say, and that's how I've been learning the song.
So this is an Iranian classical song, and now you're in Scotland singing this song with Farzane, but with Greg and I in this environment. How where does that put you as a musician? Are you thinking of how to do it, or thinking of here?
Yeah, there are two concepts. I want to answer to your question from two different angles. First angle is the freedom of expression that I have here, and the freedom that I can perform and sing whatever I want, comparing to the situation that I had in my home country, that you need to go through a certain procedure and protocols in order to be a normal musician, where you can sing whatever you want and where you can collaborate with any person that you want. But that's one difference. And how I feel in terms of performing a folklore song from my home country in my new home, Scotland, where I sought sanctuary in 8 years ago. Yeah, it takes me back home, to be honest. And whenever I'm performing this sort of folkloric music and songs, I feel that it's very tantalizing. It's something that I really enjoy performing it, and I love to deliver the messages and the story of the songs, as I have been doing this before. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, can we hear something else then?
Sure.
What we're going to hear next?
Sorry, the first song is not Segodar. It's called Shane. Sorry. Segodar is what I'm going to sing now. Yeah.
But they all knew that.
Sorry about that. So I hope you enjoy Segodar now.
We've been waiting for it.
جان سه گداره اولین نقش نقش و نگاره گودار دومی مخمل بپوشم گودار سومی دیدی دیدار یاره گل زردم همه دردم جفایت چیزی نکردم تو بیا تا دور تو گردم ای یار جانی دوباره بر نمیگردد دیگر جوانی ای یار جانی دوباره بر نمیگردد دیگر جوانی از اینجا تا به بیرجن سه گودار اولی نقش و نگاره گودار دومی مخمل بپوشم گودار سومی دیدی دیدار یاره گل زردم همه دردم ز جفایت شکوه نکردم تو بیا تا دور تو گردم ای یار جانی دوباره بر نمیگردد دیگر جوانی 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 bundan yine de küz eylediler. Bir söz demedi hep söz eylediler. Ayana bu yarım niye gelmez oldu? Açtı uza dağlar görülmez oldu. Ayana bu yarım niye gelmez oldu? Açtı uza dağlar görülmez oldu. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana bir ehmin gelsin nene. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana, boynum buran oğlana bir ehmin gelsin nene. Hey. Bu celen haralıdır, dağların maralıdır. Kaş gözünden bellidir, yüreği yaralıdır. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana bir ehmi gelsin nene. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana bir ehmin gelsin nene. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana, boynum duran oğlana. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda duran oğlana bir ehmin gelsin nene. Koy gülüm gelsin aynene, koy yarım gelsin aynene. Kapıda
Yeah, this is a song that is really interesting because it's first of all I need to say that this was a bit different in language than the other songs that we're singing. Obviously, we're both from Iran, and Iran is a massive country with different languages. Obviously, the biggest language is Farsi, and then second language is Turkish, and then Kurdish, and then Gilaki, and there's lots of different languages, culture in one country, and it's the beauty of it, I think. So this, I'm originally from northwestern part of Iran, which is the Azerbaijan province, and this song is an Azerbaijani song, so it's an Azerbaijani Turkish I was singing, and I started recording new series of songs that I remembered from my parents and grandparents singing them, and this is one of them. And one interesting part of it is like Aref was saying that he used to, there's lots of oral tradition that we remember the songs and everything. Obviously, I always heard these songs, but I wasn't really interested in. Like whenever my parents was singing them, I was just can you stop? I don't like them. But I ended up like when I came here, I started singing these folk songs more. For some reason, I was doing my own songs. I was an underground musician, and Aref was talking about protocols. There was absolutely no protocols back in Iran for women. When you're a woman, just don't do it. But I did it anyway. I was an underground musician. And just I wasn't doing any folk songs. When I came to Scotland, I started to perform more. There was more performing opportunities, and I found I wanted to kind of express more than my own written songs, like go and introduce more of my culture, and that gave me an opportunity to learn my own culture. Obviously, like folk songs that lots of them we knew, but I didn't perform them, and I wasn't really familiar with them. But here I made myself familiar with them. So these songs will remind me of Scotland, because I connected these songs when I'm here, than when I was back in Iran. So that was an interesting point of it. And no, no. So one of the reasons I picked this song to sing tonight, the other day when we didn't have time to rehearse that much. I need to tell you this, but these two amazing musicians just we're amazing to catch up with what we're doing. So the other day we were performing, and Phil told us about how important is telling the stories behind these songs, and that's why I was saying the stories behind most of the folk songs in Iran that we sing, and that the story is quite similar in many of them, which is when a woman goes to a river to get water, and there's this shepherd who falls in love with them. And either they daydreaming or they literally do. So the songs are about the shepherd wanting his family to go and ask her family to marry him and take her to their home. Most of the songs are about, it revolves around this theme. The reason I picked this song is there are a few songs in Azerbaijani folk that are very interestingly from a woman's perspective. So these are the song that you just heard is from a woman, and it's really interesting. That's that kind of longing for your love. And in most cases, when there's this perspective change, there is a sense of powerlessness in comparison when it comes from a man's perspective. Because in this song, it starts from like, I bought a samovar, which is like a Russian kettle that is very, very much used in traditional Iranian tea making style. And it's like, I bought a samovar and I don't feel like cleaning it because my love is gone and I don't, my heart is broken. And she gets to a point that asks her mother to please let him in. He wants to come in. So I mixed two different songs in one song, and in another part is about like a guy who leaves the woman and never shows up again. This story is quite known for all of us in all ages, happens, but that kind of powerlessness that a woman could experience in love, compared to a guy's experience.
So then just a final question on that. I think that's fascinating. And I love the fact that it's not the case of most of the music, most of the folk songs are not from that perspective. And yet, but you're singing it as a woman. Do you feel kind of empowered singing it, even though it's from a powerless perspective? How does that match? Because you strike me as quite an empowered.
I think yeah, just when I sing it, I feel like there's more genuine connection when I sing it. If when I sing some parts, actually I was imagining some of my own stories. I was imagining myself when I was singing that. So when we were rehearsing that day, I actually was a bit was this close to get emotional and burst to tears the other day. So it just connects to my soul much in depth in comparison to other songs.
Yeah, thank you. It shows. Thank you very much. I'm going to finish up with one song.
Yeah, that's a shepherd song. That falling in love with the girl who goes to the water. So let's finish the show with some more hopeful and being empowered in love and things like that. So this one is called Dokhtar Boy Rahmadi, the girl from Boy Rahmad, and yeah, I just play it in a way that I do it, and there's a part that I created, which is Yarome Yarome, and it's like that. I added that part to this song. Yeah, this was one of the first songs that I learned to play when I was in Scotland.
It's been a wonderful evening and such a pleasure to be performing with you two as well.
Absolutely beautiful to have the privilege of sitting here in amongst you, listening to this wonderful music. So thank you all so much.
Of course, our pleasure to be here.
We hope you've enjoyed the evening. We hope you've enjoyed the evening. it's been lovely to be part of the Storytelling Festival. And
yeah, perhaps if you haven't done so already, you may be inspired to explore your own family history and stories.
yeah, we've all got stories to tell, and we're just going to end with another poem from Ellen.
This is called Curator. My grandmother's grandmothers waving from the dock, from station platform or a market square, watching everyone go out of sight, lost to sea fog, coal smoke, bends in roads. Letters follow, news of births and deaths, scored out by censors or delayed by war. Changes of address that never come, from senders unaware where they'll go next. Yet those who can will finally reunite in tattered photos whispering in my drawer. Some older than the century gone by, some with names and faces I don't know, but I won't be the one to let them go.
Thank you, Ellen. Well, just before... Oh. Just out of interest, there's an interview that we did with Ellen on the EJCC YouTube channel, where Ellen reads a lot more of your poems. So if you've got a spare moment, try and find that. It's really enjoyable to hear Ellen's poems. Well, thank you again. Just a few thank yous. I've got to thank our sponsors, the National Lottery Community Fund, for supporting this event. It's really great that they gave us the funding for it. I'd also like to thank all the staff of the Storytelling Centre, Joe up in the box, who's been doing tech for us, and Donald and everybody else in the team that's been helping, and of course Eddy, who's been videoing and taking photographs this evening for us, and Janet, who's the chair of the Edinburgh Jewish Culture Centre, and Adrian and Hannah in the office who's been helping, and everybody. And of course, your good selves for coming out tonight and sharing this evening with us. And I think we're going to end with just another bit of music. Is that right?
We'll play you one little bit of music to finish. This is what's called the Dobra Noc, which is a good night tune, appropriately enough. This comes from the town of Dubno in what's now Ukraine, and it was collected on an ethnographic expedition about 115 years ago, and the fiddle player it was collected from was in his 70s at that point. So the tune is a couple of 100 years old at least. So we hope this sends you nicely on your way.